A federal judge has blocked the Biden administration from lifting Title 42, a Trump-era policy that has been used to expel nearly 2 million migrants at the border. Sounds like bad news for the White House. Except they've used it more than 1.3 million times, more than the Trump administration used it. And in reality, this was actually a huge win for the Biden administration. They just can't admit it publicly. Title 42 is a COVID-era health policy put on the books by the CDC back at the start of the pandemic more than 2 years ago now. It was enacted as a health measure to prevent the spread of COVID, not an immigration policy. But it's helped prevent the border from getting inundated and has been extended several times, first by the Trump administration and then by the Biden White House. In April, the CDC, yes, it's the CDC because it's a health measure, announced plans to lift the rule, which gives Border Patrol agents the authority to quickly expel migrants trying to enter the country instead of allowing them to seek asylum. It was set to end today. In fact, just weeks ago, the Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas announced asylum seekers who had been turned away at the U.S.-Mexico border would now have the opportunity to enter the country and make an asylum claim. But as I've said before, I don't believe that the White House really wants Title 42 to end at all, despite giving lip service to its progressive base who want it gone and are demanding that it be gone. If Title 42 ends, the administration will face a mass influx of people coming to the border, perhaps even triple the number of migrants than ever before. That would be a huge political liability and particularly bad news for moderate Democrats in swing states who are up for election in the fall, many of whom have come out against the plan to lift the rule. But Politico reporting on Friday the obvious, it's the secret, that though the White House has already appealed the judge's ruling, some aides are quietly relieved. Quote, the situation at the southern border had become a political mess for the White House, with Republicans playing up the possibility of a massive uptick in migrants crossing from Mexico into the United States. Even some Democrats had openly questioned the White House's decision to end the policy, arguing that the nation's immigration system would not be ready to handle the influx, while also worrying about the political ramifications in a midterm year. Exactly. See, this way, the White House gets to deflect the blame to the courts. We wanted to change the rule, but the judge, they won't let us. When it comes to their base, while avoiding the disastrous optics of potentially millions of migrants overwhelming the border just as the midterms hit. And a Politico Harvard poll shows the majority of Americans, 55%, oppose lifting Title 42 compared to 45% who want to end it. Joining me now is immigration attorney Raoul Reyes. Raoul, welcome back to the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, first let's talk law for a minute. Explain to us what the judge's reasoning was behind saying can't lift it.
Okay, his reasoning was pretty clear-cut. It was basically two-pronged. Number one, he said that the Biden administration did not follow the proper protocols under the Administrative Procedure Act. Specifically, they didn't allow enough time for public comment for changing the status of Title 42. And his second line of reasoning was that the Biden administration had not taken into account what he foresaw and what the states were arguing as a burden on the states in terms of the financial costs, the resources they would have to put forward, the time and money that they're going to have to spend processing people, in addition to the federal resources devoted to the border. So on those two grounds, he said that now is not the time to lift Title 42.
But it's not a permanent ruling.
No. The Biden administration has already filed notice to appeal. Whichever way that goes, it will then be most likely next term go to the Supreme Court, and they will have a final word on it. But however, one thing in this judge's ruling that, well, in my view, Title 42 is legally suspect all around. But one thing, even with this judge's ruling, Title 42 has been on the books since the 1940s. In 1966, as a public health law, in 1966, Congress changed that rule to give authority over its implementation and termination to the CDC, what's now the CDC.
Right.
So just the fact that this judge is usurping the role of the CDC and saying, no, it needs to stay in place, that in itself is legally questionable.
Right.
A question of his authority over authority that Congress designated to the CDC. Because remember, when Title 42 was implemented, the top scientists at the CDC did not do it. It was Mike Pence who stepped in and ordered it to happen.
There's just a ton of dishonesty that's going on across the board with this. Let me read part of the judge's ruling with regard to the second point you make. The record reflects, based on the government's own predictions, that the termination order will result in an increase in daily border crossings. This increase could be as large as a threefold increase to 18,000 daily border crossings. Moreover, the CDC's own termination order acknowledges that the order will lead to an increase in a number of non-citizens being processed in DHS facilities, which could result in overcrowding in congregate settings. The record also includes evidence supporting the plaintiff state's position that such an increase in border crossings will increase their costs for health care reimbursement and education services. These costs are not recoverable. The plaintiff states thus satisfy the irreparable harm requirement for a preliminary injunction. Now, I've said before, I think there's no other way but to keep Title 42 in place. I think the disaster that would be our border without it is immeasurable. With that said,
do you think our border is a disaster right now, the status quo that we have?
Yeah, I think it's a disaster.
To me, if we keep Title 42 in place, all it does is maintain this dysfunctional status quo. But many people like to talk, we have no alternative to Title 42, to lifting Title 40. I can think of at least three. Number one is the plan that DHS Secretary Mayorkas, I think it's 25 pages, the preliminary plan where they want to increase immigration judges, increase their cooperation with nonprofits, and send more resources to process people at the border and either send them back or parole them into the country. That's one option. But number two option is to officially process more people and then deport them. Right now, under Title 42, you can enter the United States, be removed. There's no record of you having attempted. There's absolutely no consequences. You can enter every day of the week until you're successful. Number three, the option.
That's a good point, by the way.
There's no consequences. So it actually drives up the numbers. 1/3 of our illegal border crossings right now are repeat offenders. So it inflates the numbers. And the third option is humanitarian parole, which anyone can apply for. Under humanitarian parole, people can come here until their immigration case is decided. They are allowed to work. They are required to check in with the government, and then they can be deported if their asylum claim is not successful.
But that's always been the most controversial.
Right,
the number three, it's always easy to say, oh, they'll show up. And look, and the vast majority of times they do show up.
But those are the options. People don't like the options, and we have them. And the other thing that we cannot sweep away is asylum is a legal right for people to claim, for migrants to claim, and it requires U.S. presence. And we cannot, because of our political gridlock, because of the contentiousness of the immigration issue, we cannot just sweep aside a cornerstone of immigration law.
And we have to figure out a way to allow a more limited number of asylum claims, because you cannot just say
that is the job of Congress.
Right. Everyone says that they're here for asylum, right? Everyone now. They know the word. You got to use the word asylum. It's almost like the password to get asylum. Oh, okay. So,
however, the great majority of asylum cases, particularly from Central America, like 90-some%, they are not successul.
Right.
Under our current system, when people are returned, there are no consequences. If you are processed through and vetted through our full asylum system, and your claim is denied, you can be barred from entering, even attempting to enter the U.S. for 10 years plus. But the fact is, remember, in history, you mentioned the poll that 55% of Americans want to get rid of Title 42. There's not a public referendum on human rights or a catastrophe happening at our border. We did that before 1938, 1945, where the U.S. public did not want to take European refugees, even after the war. It took 3 years before the American public allowed Congress to take Holocaust survivors. That was a disastrous period because our politicians were not willing to take unpopular political choices.
But
the time is now. The failed policy.
The time is now what? The time is now to make holistic changes.
To lift Title 42. Because a failed policy is not going to get better with 6 more months or 1 more year or 2 more years.
But if you lift it immediately, you will agree for whatever period of time, it's going to be a complete and utter disaster at the border. If we lifted it tomorrow, yes or no?
If we lifted it tomorrow, there will likely be 3 times, 4 times the numbers.
Okay. I'm not saying I'm not saying that's necessarily the answer, but let's at least start there and admit that.
No, people do not dispute the number. Like
fair
the estimated numbers will be like, say, post Title 42. 12,000 to 18,000 per day.
That's a giant number.
That is a giant number in a country with 3.6 unemployment, in a country with 60 workers, 400 jobs.
But that's not the answer either. The answer isn't, we need the employment.
But what I'm saying is that practically it doesn't work. It's legally suspect. Our economy needs workers, and our history is one of living up to our ideals of welcoming
when you make 4 points, and I agree with 2 of them, it's hard to wrap it up. All right, Raoul Reyes, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it. Coming up. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.